This video is about time, because time is important, and the number one hindrance and boundary that I hear that prevents from volunteers being able to volunteer or planning events or fitting things into calendars is a time issue. And I just really thought that it was important to share this with the congregation. We decided to do it in a video because we didn't want it to be distracting. So I'm gonna mess up the youth room for this. What I did a couple months ago was start this journey with God to figure out how I can illustrate time and share this in a way that is informational and illustrating time, but in a non-threatening way that doesn't make anybody feel like they're being judged or condemned. That's not what I want to do right now. This has changed my life, and I hope that it changes yours also. So what I did is all started off with numbers, and then I got the idea for the water. God just dropped that into my spirit. It's so good. It's not for me. But in a 365.25 year, you have 525,960 moments. And what I did is I took all those moments and put them into drops of water, and all of that combined turns into a hair under 7 gallons of water. It comes to 6.95 gallons. Then what I did is, after looking, so this is your year. This is your moments of your entire year of your life. What I did then is I looked at the average amount of time an adult sleeps, eats, works, and bathes. And I multiplied that out, figured out in a year how much time do we spend doing those things. And in a year's time, you will spend 336,644 minutes doing those things, which are kind of like the non-negotiables of life. And that equates to 4.45 gallons of water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out 4.45 gallons of water, because they are spoken for. And this isn't to say that in those 4.45 gallons of water that you can't have discipleship moments and moments that honor God and good conversations with people at work. It's not to say that that time isn't effective or used for the glory of God. This is just to show you that your remaining time is actually 2.5 gallons of water of time left in your life that you can't say is used for work, for sleeping, for eating, or for bathing. And the work number doesn't include vacation time in it. So it would be as if you were working every week of the year, not just some weeks because of vacation time and whatnot. But vacation goes inside of your 2.5 gallons. So this explains why we're tired. And we're tired because after we do everything that we have to do, this is what's left over. It's less than half of our lives. And this is where we have all the extras that we do, that we choose to do, that are important. And they should be done. Like, life shouldn't be all about work. So this is where we watch sports or go to sporting events, where we spend time on TV recreationally. This is where our vacations go, our hobbies, and the time that it takes to do our hobbies, the birthday parties, taking care of your kids, going to doctor's visits, and the grocery store. I'm just single and I go to the grocery store 3 times a week, so I can't imagine what a family has to go through. The car rides that we are in, going places, the amount of time that we spend on social media and our phones, which for the average adult, it's 5 hours a day. The holidays go in here, and just everything that comes with that. Like, anything that you do awake that isn't eating or working or bathing goes inside of the 2.5 gallons, which really isn't a whole lot of time. So it makes sense why retired people are still tired and why busy people get busier. It's because we're trying to do so much in the 2.5 gallons that we feel like we're not able to do things well, that we feel rushed to do the things that we want to do, and that we have to say no to things that we really want to do, and we end up saying yes and committing to things that we really don't have time for or aren't able to see through. So I get it. We're all in the same boat here. One thing that I did not say, though, is church. So let's say that you are going full blast into church activities and you are here on a Sunday morning for Sunday school and the worship service. So we'll just say 2 hours of time being, and when I say this, like having discipleship moments, like being filled and filling others, being discipled and discipling others, because that's what discipleship is. But let's say you do that for 2 hours on a Sunday and you come on Wednesday night activities. That's 3 hours a week, and those 3 hours multiplied out actually come to 2.5 cups-ish. So really, this is the amount of time for 3 hours dedicated to church out of your 2.5 gallons. That's the church line. And that's not to say that you aren't spending time outside of church in the Word, discipling your kids, discipling yourself, discipling others. Like, it's not saying that you don't do that in any other times, but if you're in church for 3 hours a week, every week, that's what that looks like. George Barna said that the single most world-changing ministry is children's ministry. And within the first couple months of my working here, I walked into Floyd's office many times and said, I don't think we give kids enough credit. And I was just in continual awe of children and what they were capable of and the things that came out of their mouths. It was amazing. It was incredible. George Barna also said that we need to be reminded that children are intellectual, that they're emotional, and they're spiritual. And I would like to add to that personally that they are relational. Despite the fact that their face may be in front of a screen or they may be in their own la-la land, they are also very relational, especially teenagers. When they get to the point where they're able to trust you, it's surprising the depth that they have in them to offer to you. And so with that being said, in speaking to the parents now and to all my volunteers that volunteer in the church, we have to work a window. And this has been said many times before, but our window is basically up to that preteen year of 13, because generally speaking, the condition of your soul at the age 13 is generally how you die. Before that, at age 9, all moral foundations are set in a child. That's at age 9. The scary thing is that the average 8 to 14-year-old spends 10.8 hours a day absorbing some form of media. It doesn't necessarily mean it's YouTube or it's social media. Maybe your kids don't have a social media account, but what they're absorbing is what they're seeing and hearing in video games, what they're experiencing on the TV, the things that they pick up in movies, the music that they listen to, the music in the car ride on the way home from school, whatever it may be. That's how much influence is in them from the media. And so if they're experiencing 10.8 hours on average for the 8 to 13-year-old of media absorption a day, and you counteract that with the 3 hours of a church on a Sunday, it basically washes out in one day of media, which is why it's so important that parents, and we realize that we have a small window when they're here at church, but there's all this extra time that can be used for discipleship moments. I'm not saying every moment needs to be a discipleship moment. I'm just saying that any moment can turn into a discipleship moment. And my challenge for the congregation is going to be do the 2. And so I want to show you what the 2 looks like. The 2 is essentially the idea that if you would give your child, yourself, I don't have children, but I've done this for myself for the past 2 months actually. But if you would just give 2 more minutes to the discipleship of someone else and yourself a day, it would turn into 730 more minutes a year. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. It translates into 0.009. I'm going to be generous and turn it into 0.01 because it was easier to figure out minutes or gallons, 0.01 gallons a year. And this is what it looks like. 2 more minutes a day for 365 days turns into 2.56 tablespoons, which absolutely seem like nothing compared to the rest of this. And I can imagine you're probably thinking, well, what's the big deal with do the 2? What would really just 2 more minutes happening or not happening in my life make? And I just want to say that, like, I've done the 2 in my own life, which I can explain in a minute, and it's changed my life. And the fact that I have this much time that isn't accounted for by how hard I work or how much I sleep or my basic needs. I looked at these 2 gallons and I personally felt convicted. Maybe you don't. But doing the 2 is more than what you're doing right now, because you're going to add 2 more minutes or 2 more circumstances into your life than what you are now. And even though it doesn't hardly look like much, and it's 2.5 tablespoons, if Jesus went after and celebrated over the 1 and left the 99, then that means that I can celebrate your 2. Whether it's a minute of prayer before your kid leaves for school and a minute prayer before they go to bed at night, I'm going to celebrate your 2. I'm going to celebrate your 2 even when some weeks it turns out to be 1. I'm going to celebrate your 2, especially when you come to me and you say, hey, we started off with a 2, but our 2s end up being 6s. Like, that's incredible. That's amazing. And that will happen without you having to do much about it, because your kid is hungry for this. Like, and you have a window before they turn 13. You have a window right now with them where you can do the most spiritual transformative work in their life, so that they can be a part of the world-changing ministry around them. Like, we want to see that in our children and youth ministry. And this isn't saying that anybody after 13 is written off my list. It means that when they get to my youth group, we fight really hard, really, really hard to get them, because we know what their lives are made out of. That 10.8 increases drastically after they turn 13. Like, we fight so much harder after that point, because we go after the 1. We go after the 1. In Matthew 5:41, Jesus says, if somebody takes you along and forces you to go 1 mile, that you're supposed to go 2 with them. Last year for 2017, I said we were going to create memorable moments that may not always be successful. We definitely had moments that were less glorious than other moments, but we remember those moments because we were creating memorable moments. And this year, I want us to create the most memorable moment that we possibly can, and that is a discipleship moment, a moment where we're connecting the heart of God with His creation and creation with the heart of God.